Howdy, howdy, and welcome to My Bloody Judy with your final forgets, myself, Zachary Patton Garcia.
And Ian Carlos Crawford.
We have our spooky lighting for today.
We do, because we're going to be talking about Skinamarink a little bit later. But yeah, we figured we'd just chat for a minute. You know, we just got back from Ian's birthday party weekend in New York City, of all places. You got me out to New York in January. New York, I hate New York. I would never go to New York. It's terrible. I was afraid to get stabbed, and I don't like the cold weather, and it was January, and I was like, this is going to be terrible, but I will do it for my friend. And it was a really great trip. I had like a fantastic time.
I don't think I still like my sleep schedule can't seem to get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if I try to go to bed, it's like staying out till 3 or 4 every night for like almost a full week fucking destroyed my sleep schedule. So I'm like, last night I went to bed at like 2, didn't fall asleep till around 3:30, and like woke up at like 11.
So for Ian's birthday, we had like this wonderful party at Stonewall. It was really fun. I don't remember most of it. I have a Sony camcorder from like 2005, and we filmed a bunch on it for Ian's birthday. And so I've been going through the footage for the first time over the last couple of days, and it's just all night vision, all screaming. It's like in everybody's face. There's like nothing. Do you remember when we couldn't reserve the upstairs room, but do you remember when they were done upstairs and we all started going upstairs, and then they told us to go back down?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have footage of Alistair at the top of the stairs filming everybody coming up, and he's screaming, "Go back down! They said we can't go up." And then you have me there going, but there was like people behind us pushing us forward, and so then you have me going, "No, go up! Just do it!" And we're all like trashed. We're like, "Go up!" And then you have Nick Says Boo come in at the very end and says, "What are we doing?" And it's just it's some good footage. None of it makes any narrative sense, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, I've had a Blondie Heart of Glass in my head like for a week now.
Yeah, that, and then I completely forgot. I spaced on it that we had a whole Celine Dion moment. Like she went through all the Celine Dion songs. We sang all of those. It's a pretty fun night. It was a great night. I did definitely black out. But I got to meet everybody, and that was fun. And we got to celebrate your 40th. Happy birthday, Ian. Yeah. But before that, earlier in the day, we took Ian to Alamo Draft House to see Skinamarink, because everybody had been talking about it. And it was like, oh, everybody should go see Skinamarink.
Because we had looked it up before, and when I lived in New York, there was not an Alamo Draft House in Manhattan, but now there is one, and it did seem fairly new.
Yeah.
And I think my friend Doug told me it was like a year and a half ago it was built, or 2 years ago. And yeah, I was like, oh, wait, it is playing the day of my birthday, but only at noon. And it was probably the first showing, right? I think
the time was situated real nice. It didn't leave us much time to like take a nap or anything, but it was a good time. The Alamo Draft House is like situated in this like dead mall that there's nothing else around, and you have to go down like 4. It felt like Skinamarink getting to that damn Alamo Draft House. You have to go down like 4 escalators to get to it. You can't go in the bottom. Boy, you have to go.
I was like only like a few minutes late, but I was later because I couldn't I was like texting Zach being like, where is it? I don't know that I'm here.
I'm just like, I'm at the glass door. When I see you, I'll pull you in. Okay. But we went and saw this. Now, we are appropriately lit for this recording. This, I would hardly call this a movie. I don't even think I would call it a movie. I think Troy used the term experience, and I think I would go with that because it felt more like an experience. But I don't know, man. Like, what are your? I guess we'll start with initial reactions. Okay, while you're sitting in there, and when it starts playing, all of that. Take me through your like thought process on that.
Well, I know we both felt the same way at the start. It was like, oh, is this going to be the whole movie? Oh, it is. I was really bored. I was like so bored. It was like I was both bored, but like the visuals were like upsetting, but it was more like, and I think I might have read this in a review too, but I promise I did also think this, because like, right, there are like few things that like still scare me that keep like stay with me as I turn 40. And like I think I've told you, I always have my closet door open, and I think I'm not even positive where that originated from. It might be Poltergeist or it might be Halloween. But like, it's just like a nondescript fear of a closet being closed and someone being in there. It's not like, I'm not thinking of Michael Myers. I'm not thinking of Poltergeist, but like, that's a fear that stuck with me. So like, one of the things that has always stuck with me, which is so stupid. Do you remember like early internet days where it'd be like the video where you're watching it and then like a monster pops up and screams and it's like a jump scare? That's what this movie felt like, one long that, where it's like, I'm nervous because I'm waiting for the jump scare, but also I'm fucking bored. And I dozed off twice.
We all did. My husband went with us, and we all three like came out of it, and we were like, I fell asleep a couple times, or like I started to.
I fell asleep. I don't know, like each time was only a little bit, but I definitely fell asleep and then woke up for the jump scare of like the face. So I was like, look, and I was embarrassed that I had like a more of a jumpy reaction. But it's because I had like kind of dozed off. But I can appreciate it for what it is. I also agree that it's like barely a movie. It feels, I think I said this, I think you recorded me saying this, that like it feels like House of Leaves made into a found footage horror movie like Paranormal Activity, but via the Ring video. Like it felt like the video from The Ring, but movie length.
It is incredibly hard to describe this movie. We talked about it all weekend with everybody, right? Because there was a couple people who had actually seen it. Like Troy had seen it. There's I don't remember who else had seen it, but we had like plenty of conversations about it, and we were all like, I don't even know how to describe it to anybody. You know, when we sat down, like already the aesthetics were like got me. I was like, ooh, this is cool, but. We were like 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in. I'm like, is this the fucking movie? Like, are you fucking kidding me? I was so mad. I was so angry. I like crossed my arms. I sat there like a little patty child. I knew that Alistair, I wouldn't look at him, but I could feel when he would look at me because he was wanting to like give me like a really angry glance. It's because we spent like $50 going to the damn movies to see this. He was pissed. I was pissed. And then when I started settling into it, and because there's a moment where you kind of have to accept that that's what it is, you know, and you're already there. There's nothing else to do but sit and like see what's going on. It is extremely experimental. This movie robs you of everything a movie promises, right? Like traditionally, you should see characters. You don't see characters in this. We don't see anybody. We see like a leg, or we see the top of a head or the back of a head or something like that. We don't see any characters. There are no wide shots. There are only shots of like corners or like real close up on something. You hear this. It's all filmed like it's filmed on like a Super 8 camera or something. There's hardly any dialogue, and when there is dialogue, it's so faint that you can hardly hear it. And sometimes they'll give you subtitles, but other times they won't, and you kind of just have to. And so when I was sitting there, I told myself, okay, well, just kind of go with it because there's nothing else you can do right now anyway. Make Ian leave the movie on his birthday? So I sat there, and the more I sat there, the more disturbed I got, and the more like it did feel like there was this big jump coming, and we were just like on our way to that jump, and everything that happened like had me on edge. I was looking down at my fingers like so much during this movie because I was scared to look at the screen because I knew that there was a jump, and there really wasn't. There was like that one with the face, and it had a big loud noise with it. But other than that, there wasn't.
The toy.
Yeah. It just there wasn't really anything that you're usually expecting, and I paid attention. I was trying to put it all together, and we left the movie, and I just didn't know how I felt about it. I knew that I appreciated it immediately. I was like, okay, I appreciate that. Like it made me feel fear throughout it. But then throughout the weekend, I could not stop thinking about this fucking movie. I still cannot stop thinking about this fucking movie. And I don't know if that means I like it. I don't know if it means I'm so disturbed that I can't stop thinking about it. I'm truly scared when I go through my house. Like I'm scared about all of these things around me right now because this room is pitch black. But we whenever it's late at night and Alistair's already gone to bed, I have to turn all the lights on. I have to close all the doors. I'm scared of hearing that voice whispering out to me from darkness, and like telling me like the line that really keeps sticking in my head is Kaylee wanted her mommy and daddy, so I took away her mouth. That's like, oh, I have chills thinking about it. And it really has stuck with me. And I know it's stuck with you too, because we keep talking about it, even though you were like incredibly bored. It's lingering. So it's had an effect, you know?
Oh, and I forgot to mention, but directed by David Lynch, is very David Lynch.
Yes, which
because David
so the
Lynch,
director was Kyle Edward Ball, and he did list David Lynch as an inspiration.
yeah, because David Lynch loves a like, ooh, this is, you're either gonna buy this or you're gonna think it's fucking nonsense, but I'm gonna do it, and he does that a lot.
Yeah.
Like the big example I have is so the movie he made of Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, David Bowie's in that movie. For the revival, he has that character in there, but David Bowie had died. And like the character's still in there, but the character has been transformed into a giant tooting tea kettle that toots out smoke, and it like shapes things that are creepy. And like, and that's just like, I didn't buy it. I was like, this is stupid. But I know some people were like, oh, like that's cool, like blah blah blah. And like that's the kind of shit this movie was doing, where either you like accepted it, or understandably, like your husband Alistair fucking hated it.
Yes, I don't know many people who are more in the middle about it, and so I would have to say I truly appreciate it, and I probably do love it based on that, right? Because it just doesn't feel like a move or an experience for people to fall one side or the other. Like Alistair truly hates it, and he when he thinks about it, he still gets mad about it. He calls it a pretentious piece of shit and all of that.
So wait, I will say I think I'm in the middle, because you like a pretentious, I don't. I feel like I get very eye rolly at pretentious stuff, and you kind of like can buy it more than I can. So, but I do think I'm in the middle, because like I do think it's very fucking pretentious, but I do like you said, like we've been talking about it a lot, and like last night I was alone and I was like reading up on it and I got creeped out. But I get easily creeped out when I'm alone. Yeah. Like I also watched Cabin in the Woods last night, which is like not a scary movie, and was getting creeped out. So like
we were one of the nights that we were in New York, in our hotel room, I chosen my side of the bed to be next to the wall. There was an outlet right there and stuff like that. And one of the nights we were there, I just kept like, my mind was telling me there were things in the dark. And so I had to move over. I had to switch spots with Alistair. I had to sit next to the window, and I had to open the window so that I could have some light and like I could see things, because it was too damn scary. I just kept thinking, I don't know what I kept thinking. I kept thinking I was going to see a face coming from the darkness or something. It like is a movie that has truly stuck with my psyche. And that's why we're doing an episode on this, because we didn't plan on doing it, but like I just have so much to kind of talk through about this sort of experience, and like the interpretations of it are like have my mind running wild. I've been watching all the theory videos. I think I've landed on one that, because initially I was like, okay, well that's purgatory. I take it as the kids were probably abused or killed by the mom, or maybe the dad killed the mom and the kids, or something like that. And they're like stuck, and maybe there's a demon, maybe they're in hell, maybe something like that. But then there's a theory out there that the kid Kevin, the younger of the two, is in a coma. And I kind of buy that a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm sold on that theory like 100%. Yeah. And I'm like you. I like hearing the different theories, even if it's a stupid theory. I like that's what someone thinks. But yeah, I was reading up on them, and that, because especially like the short film that he did, Heck, that basically Skinamarink is the movie version of, like that kid very explicitly says he's like, I think we're in hell at the end. So while like I still could buy the purgatory thing, like I feel like both make sense. Like those are the two that make the most sense, where it's like he is at least on his way to dying, or on his way to like falling, like either he's on his way to purgatory or like on his way to hell, which would make sense for all the like weird visuals and like that shit. Or like he's in a coma and this is his brain, like he's slowly not remembering things. So either way, it's him slowly fading away. And I think that's what makes the most sense.
And that's what makes it really scary too. Or there's tons that make it really scary. I don't know. Like, so at the beginning of this thing, we get the dad, and it feels very regular. Like it feels like there's people home. It feels like things are going on. The dad's on the phone. We initially hear like falling down the stairs, then a kid crying. It sounded like a baby. I thought there was a baby in this, and Kevin, he just has his cry sounds just like a baby, because we hear it later too. He cries. We hear like the door close and the car like drive off. And then later we hear the dad on the phone talking to what I would assume was the mother saying, well, so Kevin fell. He doesn't need stitches or anything. So the theory goes that then we see him, his comatose state, that him falling down the stairs has like sent him into a coma. And throughout the film, he is just fading more and more away. He's losing everybody because he's hearing these voices, and the voices are from the outside world, maybe, or I don't know. It just and then at the very end, we hear a voice tell him to go to sleep, and he says, "What's your name?" And it just says, "Go to sleep," and it like doesn't answer, and then the movie ends, and so that would just be Kevin finally slipping away,
Right.
and that makes a lot of sense to me. But also, like, I think our brains are just so trained to this movie does everything that are against what our brains are trained to do, and our brains are really trained to decide on a plot line, decide on a story. There has to be a story connected, right? Well, maybe there's not a story. Maybe there's nothing. The director was very inspired by, and like you mentioned with the short film, was very much like this as well. The director was very inspired by sort of childhood, and we talked about this when we went to Joanne, by the way, Lady Gaga's dad's restaurant. That was pretty fun. But we were talking about it there, that this felt like childhood memory, and we have two different perspectives on childhood memory here with Kevin and Kaylee. And Kevin seems like he's about 4, right? And so we were talking about, well, when do you become conscious and have your first like through memory? You know, when I try to think back to my earliest memories, they're just fragments. I can't really like put a story together. They're just fragments, and it feels a lot like in this, when we get Kevin's POV, it's all just fragments. The tight, close shots, all of the like, everything's just really disjointed. And then when we do get Kaylee's POV, it's a lot more fluid. Like, we get her starting at the bottom of the stairs, walking up the stairs, going into the parents' bedroom. The dad telling her to look under the bed. Fucking crazy shit right there. I was so scared when that part came on.
I was like, just go back to your brother.
Just go back to go downstairs, okay? And then, but that's like a lot more fluid. So, and she would be the older one who would be able to piece together memories like that. So I also read that. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me as well. It's just like a lot of this stuff is just so feels so. Like I feel like he did a really good job at kind of like reminding us of childhood psyche, of like what our minds were like as children, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like I did read, some people think that it, which I don't know. This one I don't buy as much, but I could see it. It's like that this was the kids dealing with like either abusive parents or like parents who were abusing each other and like splitting up.
Yeah.
And that's why they were like facing away from each other on the bed. And like, I mean, I still think it's either they're in purgatory going to hell or he's in a coma fading away. But yeah, I mean, those theories also like, you know, make sense with like, if it's a metaphor, you know what I mean? If like it's a metaphor for that, then yeah, sure, I could see that. The same way the Babadook is like kind of about, I forget, what the fuck is it that people say it's about?
It's like depression and
like
stuff,
grief,
right? Yeah,
depression,
grief and depression, all that.
Like, I think the Babadook, when I first saw it, it's pretty straightforward. Like, it can read as a straightforward, like, this is just what it is, right? Like, there's this fucking creepy, scary thing that's haunting them. But then when you, like, think about it more, it's like, okay, I could see it being a metaphor for this or that.
Yeah.
And same thing with this. Like, when I was watching it, it was just like, okay, this is just a creepy filmed thing with kids. But, like, I also can buy that it's about something more.
I do think it's about something more. I think it's definitely a film. I hate fucking saying it. Like, I really hate saying it. We're doing it as a blanket term, guys. But I just think, like, if we want to put a narrative structure to it, I think, like, the comatose thing sounds really good. Purgatory, hell, whatever you want to do. But I think even deeper than that, I think more than that, it is just childhood experience. And so what you... I think I see a divorce storyline in there. Absolutely. I do think there's a divorce going on there. I think that was pretty evident from the beginning when the mom's not there while the dad's talking about Kevin falling. I think the shots of, there's like a couple minute shot of like blood and screaming, and then like the blood goes away, blood and screaming, the blood goes away, the blood and screaming, the blood goes away. That's abusive. You know, there's something going on there. And so some of the creepiest parts though are at one point Kaylee and Kevin, because I guess I feel like I'm just talking in circles. Overall, the plot, when you read it, it says that two kids can't find their parents and there's no windows or doors in the house. And so that's like basic, right? And so it's true. There's no windows or doors. They like go away. There's no toilet for some reason. They have to like go in buckets.
Yeah.
That was random. This demon's real fucked up. But then so they're kind of just like wandering around this house. And they decide to like camp out in the living room. We're going to sleep in the living room. And there's one moment where they like push the couch up against this little entryway from the hallway to the living room.
Yeah.
And that was so scary every time they flashed to like a shot where you could kind of see it. Reminding us that like we're blockading something sinister on the other side there. And we're staying
like poor
here.
children. Yeah, like that's their safe spot, which isn't that safe.
Yes, and whether it's like actually a demon or something, or they're just kind of like camped out in the living room because there's a lot of drama going on with the parents and abuse going on or whatever. It's scary, and like they're huddled up in the living room and they have the TV going. You know, that was another point, is that if you were ever raised by the TV, you understand this. How you sitting in front of the TV is your comfort zone. You know, you pull up a blanket, you sit on the couch, you watch TV, you have your TV, and your TV's raising you because your parents are a little bit more absentee. That was good. That was some really
but
good
even
stuff.
so, like I think of like, I don't know. I like every time my grandma babysat me, we would watch. It would like she would be there, but it would be like I would be on the floor watching TV, like very close, and she would be like sitting like. You know,
exactly. Like that's why there's really no like through line here, is because everybody had a different childhood experience, right? And so when we watch this, we pull our own sort of experiences. So one thing I really had trouble with, I'm having a lot of trouble now, is remembering what or deciphering what my mind is telling me I saw. Because in my mind, I'm seeing the whole thing play out. I'm seeing full shots. I'm seeing the kids. I see like everything in my mind. But that's not the movie we saw. We saw nothing. There was nothing in this movie. And so it's really hard for me to pick out like, what did I watch in the movie? Or what did my brain just decide I saw, you know?
Well, that brings me to the one critique that I know didn't bother you. But I think it's to the movie's detriment that we don't see the kids, because I felt less emotional pull than I would have if I like I think I've talked about this a lot. I think it works for me because those kids look like kids, right? And then I'm more scared. And you know, that's what I've said about Chucky. I like that the kids look like kids, because for me, I'm not that I'm like, oh, kill them, but like if it's like clearly a 20-year-old playing a 15-year-old, I'm more like, yeah, that's an adult. You know what I mean? And like if it's a kid, I'm like, oh shit, this poor little kid. And so I think it was at the movie's detriment not at least showing their faces like occasionally, because I felt like I couldn't, again, because like the kid talked like a kid, but then when he cried, it sounded like a baby. So I had trouble even being like, I don't know how old this child is. Is he 1? Is he 5? And I like
think
not
he says 4 on the police tape, right?
I think he does. Yeah. And like, but for me, it's like, I have trouble figuring out where I land in sympathies if I'm not seeing them. And like, yeah, it was like, sometimes they were a little too cutesy kid. Like, I don't like the Kevin talked in like a weird baby voice, and sometimes it was babier than others, and sometimes it was more muffled. And I felt like I needed to see them to be more like afraid for these kids. But that didn't bother you, right? It
didn't bother me. So that's the thing, is like I completely agree with, or not agree, but like see where you're coming from on that, because I see like what for a lot of people is needed to get that emotional response, right? I think I just happened to be one of the people that it really worked for, like not seeing them and just hearing them, because he did sound like a 4-year-old to me. Like what was really effective was that they were whispering to each other. They were always whispering, and there was really no sort of explanation for that, because like they didn't know what was going on, but it felt like they were like keeping hush. Had the hallway barricaded, like because of something, right? That they didn't want to bring attention to themselves, which could be like, you know, you don't want to bring attention to yourself because the parents are upstairs doing something or whatever.
Or because there's a monster. Like,
or there's a monster.
Yeah.
Yes, all of it. And that really worked for me. And we got our explanation there when Kevin calls the police and the cop is like, or the 911 dispatcher is talking through with him. And he's kind of like, and the 911 dispatcher at one point says, "Why are you whispering?" And then we don't hear anything, right? And like, I have chills right now, just like thinking about that and talking about that. And I think we get 2 almost full shots of both of them. So with Kaylee, we get the shot of her when her mouth and eyes are kind of, they're gone. And I thought that was the mom at first, but I guess later on they explain it's Kaylee.
Yeah, he says it's her, yeah.
And then the shot of Kevin, there's like a shot from behind where it's almost like an adult looking down at Kevin.
Yeah.
And so again, it feels like POV is switched to an adult this time because the shot's wider, it's more memorable, and we see him like kind of almost turn around, and then we go back into Kevin's POV, you know. And all of that really, really worked for me. It made me feel, because it almost felt like I was reverted back into a child's mind, and this is what I was seeing. This was what I was experiencing as a child, and it made me fearful. Like, where are my parents? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel alone? When Kaylee disappears, the feeling of loneliness and like fear of being alone is so strong, and I thought that was the best part of the movie is when Kevin is just there in the living room. You know, he's not going to go beyond the boundary. And then intermittently you keep hearing this like demonic voice. That's not really demonic. It's just like it's pitched down, and it's like more.
Well, then towards the end, it does get more like demonic.
Yeah. I think what makes it more demonic is just that instead of the child's whisper, it's more assertive. You know, we hear it as more assertive. And it like tells him to stab himself in the eye. Like some of that stuff, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to see here. This is like hell to me then. So this is a demon, you know?
Right.
I still don't know what to make of that part. I guess the comatose theory is that he had surgery.
I mean, the thing is, because I read someone saying that the coma theory doesn't work because you see the sister's POV.
Yeah.
But like, if your mind's just like blasting off shit, I could buy that maybe he has a like vision of it, because like, you know, you can dream and see people doing shit, like, right, like, so like for me that's why I'm like, okay, well that works on all levels, because if his mind is just deteriorating and like firing off memories and firing off shit, like it's not like that was a coherent, you know what I mean, it's not like didn't make sense to the parents sitting on the bed looking at the wall telling her to look under the bed. So that's why if it was like a scene that made total sense, I'd be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But because it doesn't, I can still buy that that's all in his head. You know what I mean? The same thing with like a weird monster telling him to stab himself. Like,
have you ever heard looked up like stories of people who were in comas for a very long time and then came out of it? A lot of them will say that, and this is like again so scary. But a lot of them will say that they're very conscious of what's going on in the outside world. It's just they can't react, right? Or like it just feels like I've heard some people say it feels like they're just in blackness. I've heard other people say that, you know, it's almost like a dream, but what's going on in the outside world is influencing that dream. And so people inside the dream are doing those things, or like, you know, and that lends a lot to this as well in that.
Did you ever see the movie? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The Belle and the Butterfly?
No.
It's like about a guy that falls into a coma, and it's all through his point of view. And it's like, he's like, I'm not sure if he's fully in a coma or just like paralyzed completely, but it's like, it's based on a memoir that he wrote. And like, it's all just shot from his eyes, and it is devastating. Like, it made me cry
the
so much.
Butterfly, you said? Let me look.
Yeah,
I'm looking.
I think that's what it's
right
called. And like, it was pretty good. Like for me, that worked. And it was like, did stuff like that where it would show like people would take him out in the wheelchair and he could very much see what was going on. And you would see the person he focused on that was like the person he cared about, that was like his wife or his kid. And that shit was like really upsetting. And I thought, yeah, like that's kind of about that. So yes, tangentially, that's how that's related. But that's
I think that it does lend a little bit to that comatose theory in that, it is like he's hearing the outside world, you know, like Kevin is hearing the outside world here, and getting a lot of that outside influence, but is still like Like, again, you can't just make out that he's in a coma. He's not sitting there going, I'm in a coma, please help me. Somebody wake me up. You know, it's very confusing. And as the audience, you are also really confused because the character is confused and because everything they're seeing is confusing. And like, it just, I don't know, there's just so many different ways to play with this one and to what different things to take from it. I know that the director and writer had clearly, because I went through the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is all very much the same. It's like the same exact stuff. Like the short film Heck is like very much this. Like you already brought that
I
up.
watched. Yeah.
And it seems like they've got a really good grasp, or like they've got the pulse of that childhood psyche that we all tend to really forget and like kind of move on. Like we can talk about our childhood trauma all the time, but can you feel your childhood trauma? Can you like go into it as deep as that? I thought that was like brilliant that he was able to do that and elicit those reactions, and that sort of like thought for you. And so his inspirations were really like childhood home. You know, he filmed this in his childhood home in Canada. You know, the different feelings you feel as a child, mostly like, you know, when you wake up in the middle of the night on the couch, you know, after falling asleep on the couch, and you feel out of place, right? And you feel scared.
I still feel that way.
Yeah. Listen, I'm very scared right now. We should have done the lights. I think it just works so well, you know, and I think what I take most from it is just the childhood feelings. I think that's where I land most surely on it, because everything else is just such a mind fuck for me. Like trying to like make pieces fit when then, you know, other pieces don't fit.
Well, and like the thing is, this also could just be like if he was like, actually, it's a straightforward haunted house movie. There's a demon in the house.
There you go.
Like, that also
Very
works,
much
right?
could
It
be.
does.
Yeah, because there is this malevolent, like sinister, omnipresent, like something in there that's talking to him, and we don't see it. At the very last shot, it feels like it's a black screen, and then like just faintly you see what you can tell is a face, but you don't see any features, you don't see anything. It feels very out of focus. It almost feels like, you know, when you like stare at something and then you close your eyes and you see it on the inside of your eyelids. You know, it feels very much like that. I can't tell if that's the parents on the outside world. I can't tell if that's this demon. I can't tell if it's like some sort of self-portrait, you know, like we don't know. And that's what makes it so scary, is that whatever this thing is, whether it's from the outside world, it's an actual demon, it's the fucking devil, we just don't see it, right? And the things that it's saying is so terrible to say to a child. Like, I took your mouth away because you wanted your parents. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Stab your eye? I guess that's a worse one, but like,
Yeah, I was just say, yeah.
You know, it's terrible. And they hate, at one point Kevin has a whole conversation with this thing while it's like in my brain, again, my brain is telling me that it's while Kevin is staring across the couch into the hallway, while from the hallway that voice comes, but there's still this barrier, and this voice is saying, and Kevin's like, how did you do that? And the voice is like, I can do anything, you know. Kaylee was bad. Kaylee didn't listen, so you need to listen, you know, like all of these things. And it just makes you feel sick. It makes you feel like, that's wrong. You know, we talk a lot about on this channel about like the scariest things being things that are out of place, that feel wrong, that are not supposed to be there. And that's very much that.
Yeah, and like we got that one scene of that old cartoon looping. And that's the thing I read where it's like that the demon is a new demon and like figuring out what they can do. And I can't remember, but it said that led to something else later, but I forget what it's when his blood keeps going on the floor and then not being on the floor and then going on the floor, and you keep like hearing him scream, then not scream, then scream. That was the demon figuring out how far it could go. Like it was testing it out on the TV, and then it was testing it out on the kid. And I could kind of see that, right?
I can see that. I can also see it being like the demon, so the demon's a new demon trying to figure out what it can do. And maybe it was conjured by abuse that went on in that house. Like if we want to get real literal with everything, it could be that, you know. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy.
Like The Grudge.
I just can't get it out of my mind, you know. Like it's really stuck with me.
I mean, that's the thing about, because I always say that I feel like I bring up David Lynch a lot, and I actually am very hit or miss with David Lynch. But even if I'm miss, I still like because his shit's a lot like this, where there's not really a lot of straightforwardness. And like I still will like delve deep and like love anything where it's like can be like I love dissecting a thing that can be dissected. Because like Adam Sass loves David Lynch. He's like the biggest David Lynch fan. And I remember like a few years into our friendship, I forget, I tweeted something about how Mulholland Drive, I don't know that I liked it. And he like saw that and he texted me and he was like, wait, our like friendship was talking about that movie. I was like, yeah, I was obsessed with reading about everything about that movie, but I don't know that means that I liked it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to figure out what.
I absolutely feel that for this.
Yeah, that movie has a lot of like scenes. Like there's a scene, you haven't seen that movie, right?
I have yet to begin my David Lynch journey. Okay. Yeah.
So this isn't a spoiler. There's just like, I mean, I guess it is, but there's a scene that has nothing to do with anything else where I think it's a cop we've seen before meets another cop at a diner. They go out back and there's this like monster woman and just looks at him and he dies. And that's it. We don't ever go back to that scene. We don't go back to those characters. It's just, he sees this monster woman and it is a scary moment. And she looks like a cave person. And the way it's shot, it like pans out and then goes close up on her and then close up on him. And he just dies. And that's it. There's no
Mulholland
like,
Drive. That's it. That's the movie.
Just the main character is Naomi Watts. Like it has nothing to do with that. But there are a lot of scenes like that. And that shit where like, I wanted to read all about that. And I wanted to like see what it meant. And David Lynch is very like, I'm not explaining it. Tee-hee. But I don't always love when the director's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, no, fucking tell me what that means.
I hate some shit like that. I hate shit like that. I think it's better with something like this where I could fully see the director being like, I'm just exercising my psyche. Like I have a lot of shit pent up that I'm just kind of like getting out.
But right, because he said in an interview that like a lot of it makes like he has a reason for it. But then he said that like the sister looking under the bed, that was just like creepy.
Oh my gosh. And it's crazy. It's crazy creepy. You know, it's like, and my mind is trying to pull so much meaning from that, right? Like the dad tells the sister to look under the bed. She looks under the bed. There's nothing there. She looks back up. The dad's still there. She looks under the bed again, comes back up, and then the mom's there.
And then the mom say like, we love you very much or something like that.
We love you and Kevin very much. It's just like, it's so sad. You know, did you feel sad during this at all?
Yes. It was definitely a weird movie to start my birthday with.
I thought it was going to be an art house film, but I thought it was going to be like very different than this. I don't know if I've seen anything like this, you know. I truly don't. It was so sad. You know, you have Kaylee is the one looking for the parents while Kevin is still downstairs. Kevin has still got that innocence that he is doing what he's told. And what was really sad about it was that, you know, he is probably used to whatever is happening in his life, that he is comfortable just sitting in front of the couch or in front of the TV in the living room with his Legos, tons of toys. We get that one shot of the toys just like piling up, the long ass hallway. What was it? 572 days or something. I just like didn't, and I think that hit the least for me. Like that really didn't do anything for me. I didn't really.
Which part?
The when it says how many days, I guess, because the short film does. I think the short film did it better. Is like
it does a bunch of them, right?
3 sleeps, 500 sleeps. You know, like that was more unsettling than the 572 days part.
Well, and that's because I know you said you didn't see them, but for me, that's like absolutely where I see the correlation with House of Leaves, like that, where it's like this time is passing, shit's still like getting crazier and crazier. The house is starting to have, you know, like. Because that's when when it says that is when he walks into that long room with all the toys, right?
Yeah.
And like that doesn't make sense. And he's like on the ceiling at that point, isn't he?
It's like what is that? What is that? What is that?
And like I feel like that shit, if anything, lends more to the coma theory, right? Because it's like your coma can be years, you know what I mean? Like you can just be like comatose. So for me, like that's kind of what sells me on it, because it's like it says that, and like that's when he walked, like that's when he's in there, and you see, is it like the dollhouse? That's what kind of sells me on the fact that okay, like because otherwise, if he was in, I don't know, if it was like a straightforward monster movie, he would have aged, right? Like but I mean, I guess you could like supernatural, whatever. You could say no, he's not going to age because it's supernatural. I don't know, but yeah, this is like definitely a movie that I almost wish there was more to read about. Like I felt like I found those
the director
theories
to
and that was
just
kind of
start
it.
talking. I
Yes.
think I want the director to start talking. At least, like, I understand right now, just giving it time to like sizzle and like let everybody come up with theories and stuff like that. But I would eventually like the director to sort of talk it out, explain as much as he can, and really let us in, because right now we're just on the outside of the door, and I think this is a movie that, just because he has an interpretation for it and an intention for it, right? He could come out and say what that was, and I could still see something completely different, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it hurts your interpretation at all if he says something. And I'm so tired of directors doing this shit. I really fucking hate it. Don't feed me some. Oh, what do you think it means? Just tell me, okay? It's not going to change what I think anyway. I'm a headcanon boy, you know.
I am not a headcanon, but I still like something like this. I feel like it's fine. Like, just like, oh, I interpreted this way because, like, I don't know, like with the like again, I go back to the Babadook. So many people are so sold on it being like grief and depression, but like I don't know. I can understand that, but I still see it as like a straightforward like monster movie. Like there is this creepy fucking monster that is haunting them.
See, that movie just didn't scare me as much as it scared you, I don't think.
No, yeah,
I don't know why it didn't scare me. I love it, and I think the performances in it are fantastic. I love it as like a filmmaking sort of extravaganza, but this, I'm like, this like it's deeply unsettled me. I still am deeply very unsettled for it, and I feel so bad for Kevin. I feel so sad for both of them, you know, and they're not real. I don't know I don't know what they look like. My mind has like told me what they look like though, so like I have a picture of them. It's just I think it worked for me. I don't know if I could watch it again. It made me really sad, you know.
I don't ever want to watch it again.
I don't think I do either. The parodies, the Peter Marink one is really funny, but I hope there's more parodies coming out about it because it's such a good one to parody, you know. I could see it being really funny on like Saturday Night Live or something.
It like the one that Zach's talking about, he sent me, it's a Family Guy one, and like, yes, Family Guy, I know, but it's fucking funny. And
Family Guy is funny.
Well,
that is funny.
But like, it's like because that's an older episode, isn't it? When the horse is there.
Oh God, I don't.
Because American Dad does one of those too, where he like gets a horse and he brings it in bed. But like when she's like, Peter, a horse, and then Peter, it's just like staticking and the horse disappears, and then it's there, and then it's not.
It's good for that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't think there's a whole lot more that I have to say about it. I think there's just so many questions for it still. I would love to hear what everybody else has to say. Like this is one I really want to hear y'all's opinions.
This is one like I definitely like my best friend Kevin. I was like, I want you to see it, but I know he'll hate it because he gets like very mad at nonsense. And I was like, I want you to see it just so I can talk about it with you but I know you'll hate it. But this is something that, like, I'm interested in like hearing people's takes on,
This is also one that I'm not interested in like convincing somebody that it's good. I just want to hear why you don't like it or like what you made of it. But I have no interest in telling somebody you have to watch this. I don't think I would recommend this. I would say you have to go into it just knowing that it is an experience. It's extremely experimental. You're not going to get anything you're thinking. Like when you picture a movie in your head, you will not get that for this. You know, it was a little too long. I think it could have been cut a little bit.
Oh, definitely too long.
And watch at your own risk, I guess. You might end up depressed. It could be. But I don't know. I am glad that I had the watch though. I'm glad that I have the reference, you know.
Yes.
It was also a $15,000 budget, which is fantastic, and it has made over $1 million at this point, like 1.7 or something like that. Wonderful. I also think I don't know, it did make me a little bit excited because we think about doing short films all the time or like a full length or something, like some sort of video project. And it made me a little excited to see like what somebody can do and what emotion like they can bring out of something. I'm like, what can we fucking do, man? Like, what can we do to like scare people, make people, I don't know if I want to make people think. But I don't know. It just, you know, it's I get excited seeing filmmakers with like no resources just do.
I don't want to make people think
cool shit. I get real excited for that. So,
which reminds me, after this, I have something There's something I want to make you watch, but we'll
Well,
talk
there
about
we go. Okay, we're gonna end our Skinamarink conversation here. I need to turn a light on before I get too scared because my feet are. I'm now thinking something is gonna touch my feet in a second. So
I love when it's reversed. I was on time today. I'm
that's
the
spooky.
less scared one.
Ian was on time, and we are completely reversed right now. Ian
New
is
York, it
Kaylee.
happened a
I
lot,
am
too.
Kevin.
In New York, it happened a lot too, which made me very happy.
I don't understand how anybody can be on time in New York. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, it's impossible. We're back for season 3, guys. We, as you've watched this one, we should have had a Wolfpack reaction. Our next one, I think we're going to do Knock at the Cabin Door, right? Is what we talked about.
Okay.
I thought so. Okay. Anyway, well,
Sure.
we're happy to be back. And let us know your Skinamarink thoughts, and we will see you next time.
Bye.